Good evening, everyone. System Chalk here with the 130th episode of Book of Hours, playing as the artist and entering into summer. So I had a little bit of a break between Monday's episode and today. Of course, the way that the schedule works, it would have been a day break for everyone anyway. But I'm up a tea and also some dinner, so hopefully there'll be a little bit less of an interruption between episodes, although I am going to need a little bit of recalibration just because I don't have the immediate memory. But I know we are looking forward to the next entry in the Oriflamme's heist. I believe I was considering my options as far as some sort of future locations, future rooms to open, rather. And we do still have the preliminary meter. I think I want to try and just get this finished no matter what. Obviously, we don't have Numa coming up, which is nice, but it's still good to get, it's still good to get the lessons out of the way, because I will be acquiring more through other works. But I think the big question right now is, how do I handle summer? Because summer is where the barber arrives, and the barber is a guaranteed way of gaining moth and rose, two things that the existing residents of Brandkrug don't provide. If memory serves, we have Mr. Kill, which will provide winter and sky. We have Mrs. Kill, which will provide grail and heart. Reverend Timothy provides lantern and knock. And Denzel provides forge and edge. And as it happens, there are actually quite a few rooms which benefit from the barber's services. So we have the Perilous Path, which has moon and rose. So if we can find sufficient rose, that's one option. In addition, we have the Silent Hall. Now that's 15 moth and 15 rose. And finally, we have the Crystallized Chamber, which is 13 rose and 13 winter. Now the big challenge that I have with kind of the current setup is I took a look at my current options. So I'm kind of drowning in moth. The funny thing is that the barber isn't quite the key to the whole thing. It is really the skin shuck mead that makes this work, and I believe we have quite a bit of that, if memory serves. Well, we have 3, so I believe we also know how to make more. But rose is a bit of a challenge. So barber would give us 1. We can add the fet to that, which would give me 3. And then this is where I get a little hazy, because I actually don't think I have anything that gives me a whole lot of rose in terms of memories or in terms of like ingredients. I think one of the jams. Yeah, so we've got 2 rose from the rosehip jam. And then I think the Roscragen whiskey would give me 2 as well. Okay, Ruby Wise Ruin gives me 2 rose. That's a little more than I was expecting. But you can definitely see, so first of all, drinks are more plentiful than food. But in the grand scheme of things, once I work this all out, so if I say we've got a barber, a fet, then let's say we'll add the confounding parable to that. And then let's say that we have another 4 in terms of the food and drink. Really what that gives us, 1 for the barber, 2 for the fet is 3, 2 for confounding parable is 5, and then if we add the whiskey and jam, that would bring us up to 9, and then I suppose the globe would bring us up to 10, but we need 13 to really make anything happen with our rose. So it's a little bit of a shame. If we find a Newman with enough, I could maybe see that happening. And we do know that we have Hill and Hollow or Tradisma Hyra with this altar. But yeah, I don't really know what else to do with that, to be completely honest. So here's what I'm thinking instead. What I think I can do is I can bring in the barber, because we know we'll use the barber in the Silent Hall no matter what. That also means that I'm a little lucky that I didn't bring back the inescapable confinement, because I'll actually want to use the sun disfigured first. Again, the main focus is going to be on the preliminal meter today. And I think the real question is, do I want to do anything with Mr. Kill today? I think the answer to that is no. So let's go to the Sweet Bones. We will hire a barber. Assistance from a traveling barber. In summer, the barber comes by to keep the villagers kempt. A shilling will buy his services. Barbers offer moth and a little rose. Alternatively, add a soul card to find any rarer guests who might be seeking employment. So while we're hiring the barber, let's get a few other necessities taken care of. So for preliminary meter, we know that we're going to want to keep a fet aside. Let's say that we will use Ava's desk for the sun disfigured. For that, we'll use Crack Track. So that's for the barber. Now for... I think I'll keep the pale desk aside just because I have some use out of these entries. I'll want to leave a tryst aside so that I can level up the barber. Natan's desk is open to me though. So for that, I think we start thinking about what I want for my preliminary meter upgrade. So the first one we'll work with is a pattern. Next up is salt. Actually, one thing I can do, I guess I'll use the health. Okay, so we're back to crossing to noon. Now, the Newman was listed here, but I'm not going to touch that one yet, because obviously we're already getting a Newman for the barber. The reading room can use another tryst. Does that make sense for what I want to do? Yes. So for that, we'll get the secret threshold, because I believe that is not a... I don't believe that's one that a follower can give us. Stolen Secret is possibly one. Intuition is one. Confounding Parable is one. And then Gossip. Okay. So, we'll use... Actually, it would be better if I could use another Arab. When I say better, it's really just these things up here are ones that will make me more money if I use them in the talk slot. Okay, Confounding Parable. Isaac Garth's History of the Shadowless Kings. So that gives us a start. Now, I suppose another question would be, is there something I would like to craft? And I don't think so right now. So sorry, I just need to count again. So Pattern, Salt, Secret Threshold, Confounding Parable. So we have 4 of the 8 that I require. So let's say 1, 2, 3. Okay. So the whist is technically free. I'll use the core. I'll kind of cycle through the core to make money again, but I think a lot of this is going to rest on what the barber gives me over time. But I have my days planned, so All right, I've carried the memory like a flambeau safe through the mazes of night. This will complete once dawn has come. The itinerant barbers of the South Country will keep you clean and kempt and make sure you don't miss out on any news or gossip, and arrange matters so you aren't too troubled by vermin. Snip, snip. Alright, so we'll use the core to make some money. There's not much work on offer in Brancrude, but I can find 6 pence worth of odd jobs. And we will have a chat with the barber about tryst for the start. Secret sorrows may join our strengths. Boost moth and moon. And the sunny day doesn't do anything for the preliminal meter, although we might use it for other inputs. Now again, we have other options for the day. What I want to really focus on right now is the basics in terms of my objectives, which would be preliminal meter and opening up the Silent Hall. I definitely can do other things, but these are the main goals for the day, and I think any surplus will start being directed towards cataloging the various books. What comes? Neither of us knows yet, but we will. Now the other thing that I can give to the barber without too much trouble would be the shears of the Sisterhood. Black iron shears marked with the Sisterhood's triple knot. So I can lend my assistants something to help increasing their abilities. And then after that we will have the Newman, at which point of course we can read Husher's work again, and then we can get something else for the preliminal meter. And we have Serena Blackwood. Okay. The Sun Disfigured, a scroll of anthropoderm parchment written in the golden ink called Uzalt. This book houses a Newman, a truth so powerful it can perhaps believe itself. The author of the text calls herself the Elegably. Sometimes she seems to be Sunset Celia, the Watchman's name. Sometimes she seems to be Lady Tryphon, the Grail Long. It is unclear whether these are separate entities or the same person. It may be unclear even to the writer. The flaws in the Sun's plan are elucidated. The Sun's plan itself is never entirely clear, but it is a project of some kind to enter, possess, or surrender to the glory, the pure light above the Mansus. This book suggests ways in which that plan might fail. The Sun's sins and the Sun's scars are our salvation. There are histories where they will trap us, prevent us rising to eternity. So that's going to be for the barber. Here we have The Crossing to Noon. The mystic Garcia Sowry gives a picturesque account of the adventures of Franklin Bancroft, Prince of Wines, and Ava de Wolf, the Pale Lady, on their way to the hidden island of Noon. For a long time, the Blackbone pondered her next move until the moon dared to peep from behind a cloud, and the prince completed the composition of his third sestina, but the lady met the blind gaze of its open pores, waiting for the tide. Garcia Sowry acknowledges in an epilogue that it is widely known that Ava in fact tragically drowned herself and her twin infant granddaughters without ever making such a journey. But he adds contemptuously, it is also widely known that the city unbuilt will so remain, that only one history is ever written, and that Janus is a Mansus prank. Salt, Sea Spray, Depth Sorrow. Should probably move these above. Alright. The Twin Serpent Tantra. Just before the outbreak of the Great War, Alexander Sparrow, almost certainly a pseudonym, published leaflets claiming the influence of snake princes on world affairs. The text called the Twin Serpent Tantra was his primary inspiration. The Tantra describes the Great Hooded Princes, a dynasty of unclear origin, engaging in prayers, sacrifices, and poetry in honor of the Key Serpent, the Crossroads Twins, and the Mirror Queen. Nagai encircles, Nagai arises from wounds, Nagai spares those who are already harmed. The Great Hooded Princes are described as having escaped from the history of their death to a history where they yet live. The text claims that they are now 108 of them, but in one of their many instances of twinnedness before they crossed from their death chronicle, there were only 54. Pattern, something fits just right. An Almanac of Entrances, a handbook of sealed and unsealed byways and shortcuts through the bounds, compiled by Willem Harries in the 1860s during his term as librarian of Hush House. Ares discusses the role played by the Legion de Sul and the Company of the Wolf in Gold in warding the Bounds against outside influences. He warns that Bounds travelers may themselves be considered outside influences. The Mansus says Ys lacks walls. Ys and the Mansus both have their gates, and there may be no gate without a wall. Thus the paradox resolves, as all those who will walk and dream will learn. But the wood has neither gate nor wall, and so it is the wood whose roots may creep after us into the hours of our waking. Secret threshold. It is not easy to draw our own doors, but it's not impossible. And finally, Isaac of Karth's History of the Shadowless Kings, a true and accurate history of the Shadowless Kings by Isaac of Karth. Isaac describes the 1,000-year ascendancy of the Shadowless Empire. Look at that icon. The first and greatest history is described herein. The Persian Empire, the sons of Achaemenes, the Shadowless Kings, the most glorious empire, survives the assaults of Alexander the Great and flourishes as late as the 5th century. After the fall of Rome, the Shadowless Empire takes Byzantium under its wing and moves east against the land of the Great River. Isaac begins to recount the invasion struggling against the unskinned armies of the Hooded Serpents, but ends abruptly with a series of incantations that he claims allowed the Shadowless Empire to persist. Confounding parable, the moth, the grail, and the egg unhatching all tell different stories of the world's beginning. One of those stories is the oldest, but it may not be the first. Abbas Nona. Alright, so as mentioned, we have 4 of the 8 that we need to level up Preliminal Meter. But we also have 4 elements of the soul. In fact, we'll make that 5 and 3 because we will be reading towards a fundamental aesthetic. Let's go metal. Oops. I've already mastered this, but I could reread it and perhaps recall a memory. And in a few seconds we'll be able to talk with the barber again. Is there someone en route to Hush House? We will talk about and to Serena Blackwood in a little bit, but I have other tasks. As I used to say in my youth, the day is done and so am I, but I've earned my pay. So we'll earn the core again. It is summer. I'm sitting on the bench outside the Sweet Bones, eating crumbly cheese and nettle wrappings and good black rye bread, soaking up the sun. This tool has boosted their aspects appropriately, so let's have a chat about the sun's weakness. Exalt with a memory. I can discuss a memory with my assistant. This will use up the memory, but boost the assistant's abilities for the rest of the day. So this brings me up to 10 moth, and this is where it gets a little awkward. So what I really need here is 15 moth. Again, we have 13 rows on the other 2 chambers here. So the easiest thing for me to do is just feed them the skin shuck meat. In fact, the shears are completely redundant at this point. Now, I can try and find another way around it. So if we take a look at the pantry, we've got honey. So we could use the cuckoo honey, for instance. So if I do cuckoo honey and then something with 2 moth, that might work. And then the question is, where does the moth come from? Suppose Ruby-Wise Ruin and... I didn't realize the misshapen fruit. No, that won't do the trick. Yeah, I guess it would be the cuckoo honey and the Ruby-Wise Ruin then. Still, it feels a little weird to do it that way, and we have 3 of the skin shuck mead. So in this case, we'll just feed them the beverage and be done with it. All right. Skin shuck mead, a murky, sweet-smelling liquid crowded with sediment. I can offer my assistant something to drink. And then, of course, after that, we will be talking with them to get the memories that we require. In a pinch, I can do the Curious Hunch. And I guess the Didumo... No, not... Yes, the Didumos does have knock. So Ascendant Harmony doesn't. But... I'd rather not. Didumos is not the easiest thing for me to get, and I don't see any reason why we can't gather what we need in time. All right, Towards a Fundamental Aesthetic, or The House of Glass, Julian Cosley considered this his masterwork. Techniques for perception and analysis which permit invidious and apocalyptic conclusions. Probably the most assiduously suppressed book in history. The entire run was destroyed, even the presses were melted and dispersed, but the manuscript edition has survived. The perfect hegemony of hours is perhaps eternal, but Cosley proposes and describes confinement inescapable, aesthetic and optical techniques which might contain even an hour, profoundly disrupting the order of the mantis. He presents this as his own work, but there are hints here and there that he received inspiration or even assistance from the nowhere hour named Snow. Everything ultimately comes down to a choice between eternity and history. There is only one place you are safe from both, and it is not a place anyone would want to be. It's a prison that can only exist in certain histories. It's about 5 now. Better now. So we'll keep earning money. Speak to an assistant. I could encourage my assistant, work with them, and for a little while exalt them, or I could just listen to whatever they might have to say. So plenty of time left in the day. One of the challenges might be finding things to do with my elements of the soul. One thing I would kind of like to do is use the whist to make another Solomon's Preparation. But I want to make sure that we're in good shape with the memories first. I've learned something, or perhaps just remembered it. And of course, at the end of the day, we will still talk with Serena Blackwood, but we don't have an immediate need to talk with her. And then in terms of languages, we already know Aramaic. Fusine we've already learned. We might have actually learned it from her. There's Latin, Greek, and Frisian. Okay. Not too helpful at the moment, but we're never really guaranteed any outcomes. That's why we take the time to do this. I think... in order to avoid losing my elements of the soul, I'm going to do my... my wintry preparation. Solomon's Preparation. Muddle and mix a wintry preparation. So we're locked into using these 3 for memories if we get in trouble now. Well, I suppose 2, technically, because one of them could come from the Curious Hunch. Learned something or perhaps just remembered it. So satisfaction. Again, we don't have too much that we're getting from the barber today, but that's fine. One thing that is not quite working for me, I would like to get a bit more gardening done. It has also been a while since I visited things like Crowcross Sands, but I haven't quite had the same need as earlier in the run. But again, it's kind of that hierarchy of priorities. Right now, we did also have a priority of getting these books read. And ultimately, we work with what we've been given as far as the day's events are concerned. I'm not too worried about how everything's going to turn out. If if I have to wind up using certain... Oh, great, we got a gossip out of that. So I now have 2 elements of the soul that I give up. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 7 and 8, we can use the core and the shaft, or maybe the core and the Faust. We have 1 left over, maybe for cataloging. And I think at this point what I'll do is I will use the barber to open the silent hall. The hearth is cold, the floor thick with dust, the walls streaked with nitre. Old invocations and forbiddings squeak and whisper like rats. So from here we can talk with Serena Blackwood, one-time librarian of Hush House, one-time librarian of the Invisible Serapeum in Alexandria, and currently, what exactly? Serena is close-mouthed, but I know that she has worked with the St. Ronwin Trust. It's always so very strange to be back. Thank you again for taking on the place. So the affair of the Oriflamme heist. Oriflamme's auction house is never robbed, but what if it has? But what if it has been? What if somehow priceless treasures have been replaced with pricey forgeries? How would we even be sure? I'm very interested in this theft at Oriflamme's. I hope I can rely on you to be discreet. So this will be a 3-forge mystery, which means, of course, that it's actually 4 for our purposes. But we should be able to accommodate her. In fact, if I recall, we don't have a lot of low-level forge. Yeah, I think Walter de Wolf is the lowest I've got, seeing as we had the consulted by icons. Yep, okay. My suspicion, candidly, is that Oriflamme's has invented and spread the story. I can't fathom why. I need to look into the provenance and manufacture of some of these so-called fakes. Thank you. I have a meeting there next week with someone I think I can trust, and now I hope I have enough material for him to take me seriously. Okay, so we will get a spin tray for our trouble. Now, so memory salt pattern, secret threshold, confounding parable, inescapable confinement, and gossip. The next ones that we need are stolen secret, intuition. One other thing I'd like to just double check here. Okay. I had an idea, but I'm gonna... Yeah, you know what? I'll probably do it. So the stolen secret doors and their openings? Yes. And this is a Fusine. And the tripled heart. I've already mastered this, but I could reread it and perhaps recall a memory. Okay, so we'll let time pass. Just trying to think if there's anything else that I had undone for today. I can wait. Maybe a little silly for me to be making money like I am still, but I do kind of expect that in some cases I will want to be restoring elements of the soul, so... Okay. More Solomon's preparation. Now, we don't really have any space. I could rearrange the desk, but in this case we'll just put Solomon's preparation. Oop, wanted to put it on top. I'm keeping the shaft aside just in case, for whatever reason, something I mess something up. It's nice to just have a backup where I can. This is me getting a little silly in terms of precautions, but how are we for books? 10 seconds is fine. Although, crumbs. I messed up. No, I didn't. Okay. Yeah, I'll wait. I might have left this a little late. I'm probably just being overly cautious, but I don't think there's a problem. As I used to say in my youth, the day is done and so am I, but I've earned my pay. Okay. More stories about the Oriflamme heist. So, we have Hokebald. Magister Hokebald, employed by Oriflammes to make improvements to their vault, though he might have found useful information at Hush House. Thought he might have found useful information at Hush House, though he was careful to point out that it wasn't very useful. Dagmar was clearly concerned that she might be blamed for the heist, real or not, justly or not, but her researchers at Hush House give her hope that she might escape suspicion. If you just give me a quick second. Oops. Sorry, I keep messing up. Olympe, Madame Bichet thought that she'd identified oddities in the Oriflamme's account of their security measures, and what she found at Hush House encouraged her to look into the matter further. Zachary Wakefield was close-mouthed about his suspicions of what had really happened at Oriflamme's, but he did share one hint: the door closes, another opens, and another. Dr. Blackwood suspected that someone at Oriflamme's had invented the story of the heist themselves. She couldn't imagine why, but she learned enough from me to be taken seriously by her contact there. Okay, happy to have the extra money. And we are 0.2 seconds away from the lessons that we need. All right. Deaths and their evasions. Father Stanislav John Schaller writes of the means and limitation of passage between the orders of the Mansus. No long names ours. Unusually, Father John has written this book in Fusine for, he says, special secrecy. He speaks very cautiously of the exceptions that can sometimes be made to the edicts of Chancel and Calyptra, and hints as to the means by which he successfully returned a lantern long to flesh. Schaller mentions most cautiously of all that he has been permitted to see a book that speaks more deeply on the matter, but that it was surrendered into the shadow of a covenant stone of the Watchman's Tree. It can be retrieved if the 99th wink is reserved under the edict's liminal. A stolen secret, something I overheard in dreams? And the Tripled Heart, sacred poems composed in honor of the hours venerated by the Sisterhood of the Triple Knot. The Grail is celebrated for her colors, the Malachite for her sweetness, the Axe for her constancy. The Thunderskin, least of the hours of the Knot, when he is even counted among their number at all, is celebrated with an unexpectedly poignant elegy. What lives departs, what is dead remains. Okay, so the preliminal meter improvement we've been waiting for. There's always more to learn. Improve the skill to level 9. And I am going to catalog a book. So I'm kind of taking my life in my hands doing this, because the books that we can catalog do have a danger of a curse. We will start with the baronial period. This book was probably written around the time of Hush House's baronial period, roughly the 1500s to 1700s. If I examine it, I can learn more about what knowledge it might contain. So the reason I was worried before was that I had 30 seconds to level up the skill and then 30 seconds for cataloging, but they can happen in parallel because I can catalog a book at the desk. But the good news is that, I don't believe I read the description here. The Hall of Voices. Here, the higher initiates of the threefold mysteries would meet to manage the affairs of the Black Dove and to resolve its disputes. Here, they voted to blind or expel the Chorates of the Thunderskin, who had trespassed in the inner chambers and spied on the mysteries. From that time on, the rites of the Thunderskin were not permitted on the Isle, and the sacred drums fell silent, but the waves still beat in the bones of the rock, even now that the slow pulse comes. So, there's a couple of important things in here. So first of all, we've got 3 Dawn Period books. We've got the Lambrig Brocellende. So if I need a drink that'll give nectar or grail, I've got it there. Another Mortar and Pestle, Black Sapphire Wash. But we have the Hall of Voices Hearth, and this one gives me a few more combinations. So I think we've already had a grail, but this is Moon Edge, Nectar, and Grail. And we can compare that to Scale Heart, Nectar, and Grail. Or Scale Lantern, Nectar, and Grail. So the edge matters quite a bit here. And actually, it looks like there's a new slot, so kitchenware. This won't look wildly out of place beside a saucepan. Interesting. So I suspect that this is probably a bit more... I think this is a little bit more geared towards House of Light, but this will actually be quite helpful. I wonder if that's true for all of the... Now that's interesting. I wonder if this is a mistake. Yeah, so the... Okay, cool. I wouldn't be surprised if that's patched out. Okay. The skill is now level 9. Its power aspects have also increased. I did forget to go to sleep with a memory. The High Traditions of the Noble Endeavor, a blandly positive work on the Endeavor Club, published by the Endeavor Club. The club was founded in 1862, but claims to draw from much older traditions. So, level 6. Edge Mystery, certainly not a big challenge for us. In terms of memories that I want to take with me, Satisfaction and Solace are the 2 options, I think. Yeah. So we'll take the Solace with us again. And I think that is it. I know I'm about almost 10 minutes over, so I will leave it there. It's kind of nice to clear out my plans. We now have 3 top-level skills, so it's not too dramatic that I got Preliminal Meter, given that this... we did have Edict's Liminal, although having a high-level Rose is sort of nice. I think there are a few Rose texts. Yeah, we at least have... Or maybe just the one. No, that can't be true, because there's also a Tower Rises. Now, this doesn't mean that it's a piece of cake, right? We have... we may have the Tower Rises, but the fact of the matter is that we still need to get another 9 memory, and because it's a phonograph, we're actually limited in terms of what we can add. We can bring 2 memories, 2 memories and a soul. So, in terms of what I currently have access to, I suppose that's 11. Yeah. So given that I only have 4 in terms of Rose memories, practically it's really only like having 15. So one option might be to try and read this, quote unquote, during Numa. But of course the challenge there would be that the the lessons that come out of it, I would need to use right away, or I would need to use the Noombroom overnight to prevent myself from losing the memories. Anyways, these are things that I can deal with in the future, but it's hard to say that having a high level memory or high level skill is a bad thing. But the remaining work, 5 more books to catalog, a bunch of boxes to open, and then we have rooms to open as well. So with Mrs. Kill, I think the Grail should be pretty easy to open up the Red Forbidding. And with Mr. Kill, we might do something with the Crystallized Chamber. But all of this will be handled in tomorrow's episode. Thank you very much for watching, and take care until the next one.